So this year in particularly, we obviously know the two storms that we experienced just in this past season that really created something that we've not seen in our area in a long time, and that's surge. Okay, so what the city of Venice has done this year that's really unique is we now also will have our own hurricane guide. It will mirror very much the same information that Sarasota County puts out, but what we are trying to do is really just trying to get a feel of our demographics, our needs, and we hear your voice as citizens. We have also put out our own guide that has a little bit more information that's specific to our residents. So make sure you get hard copies, make sure you get this. We have electronic copies. Obviously, there's the link. Make sure, please make sure today you have that link or you get the hard copy. And we'll go through some of these slides here that'll kind of go in depth of why you want to have that there. But it really goes over pre, during, and post-storm actions that you can take. I see some pictures, so I'll give it a minute if everybody's taking pictures of the link. We went through this. So 2025 hurricane season, which is, it's weird, but it's put out by Colorado State University. So, and they put it out every year. Here are your numbers. So if you look to the far right, that is 2024 seasons. Look to the far left. That's what we can anticipate this year. Don't become complacent with those numbers. It only takes one. Just keep that in mind. It really only takes that one storm to impact us the way the last two did. So don't let these numbers fool you. Just understand that it's going to be an active season. Welcome to Florida. What is a storm surge? So this is going to be a quick little video. And again, we're going to harp a little bit on storm surge.
Storm surge happens when strong winds of the hurricane blow over the ocean or Gulf water, literally forcing the water to pile up as it approaches the coast. That can cause water levels to jump anywhere from 1 foot to well over 20 feet above normal levels. But wind speed isn't the only factor in determining the potential storm surge. The storm's size, intensity, shape, speed, and angle of approach all matter, along with the coast and the slope of the ocean floor. And remember this, the category ranking of the storm doesn't correlate to the storm surge threat. Weaker Category 1 and 2 storms have been known to produce higher surges than their stronger counterparts. So it's important to listen for and to understand those storm surge warnings so you can react early and quickly to keep you and your family safe.
Just keep in mind again, storm surge. So in recapping, you're going to have your sea level, and understand the Gulf of America is way shallower than the Atlantic. So you're going to have your sea level, then you're going to have your high tide, then you're going to have your storm surge, plus the wind. So all those components are what's that driving factor in the height of our storm surge. We saw anywhere from 6 to 7 feet with Hurricane Helene and Milton. So just imagine what we could impact of anything higher than that. So we know those are our base foundations, 6 and 7 feet. We know what that's going to do. Keep in mind, that's again where knowing your evacuation levels, your flood zones, keep that in the back of your mind every time, and that's going to drive your force of whether it's time to leave or not. Our surge impacts for Venice. So I want to point out, hopefully this is mobile here. I want to point out just a few things. So again, these pictures are our backyard. This is the island. This is from Helene and Milton. Some things I really want to kind of point out. It's a boat. We launched this boat in a street. So that's not good. What they're having to do, we had so many water rescues just for those who chose not to leave. That's impactful for us for operations. And again, 45-mile-an-hour sustained winds, we're stuck. We cannot respond. So keep that in mind. What I want you to kind of point out to here, if you can see it, it's difficult. This is a mailbox. You know, there's a good foot of water right there, right? We talked about the ebb and flow of the tides, the surge. This picture here, here's another mailbox. Completely different, okay? So keep that in mind. Waiting to evacuate too long is going to put you in these types of situations. We're still going to get there at some point, but the most stressful thing for me during these times is, one, trying to keep our first responders from not going out and letting them know that, hey, you can't do it. It's just not safe for them. So that's something that we want to keep in mind. So just please, please, please self-policing, self-responsibility is paramount. Yep.
All right, thanks, Chief. Just to introduce myself again, my name is Lieutenant Matt Salsanich. I've been with the Venice Police Department now going on 17 years. My duties is I'm the Special Ops Lieutenant, so what is that? Quite a bit, but when it relates to storm, I oversee rescue operations and TFIT. So TFIT is our Tactical First In team. We collaborate with Manatee County, the fire department, FPL, Pike, anybody who needs to come in directly after the storm, we work with them and we make sure that our main thoroughfares and roadways are clear so the recovery process can continue. So being here for 17 years, I've been through Ian, Irma, Debbie, Milton, Helene. Obviously this last year was the rougher years that we've seen here in Venice and Sarasota County, as the chief was saying, with the storm surge. So just kind of a show of hands, is anybody directly impacted by any of the storms, lose their house, power? Yeah, I know, I talked to a lady back there from Sanibel who lost her house. So I have a personal relationship with this as well. Debbie, I lost my house. It was a tough day. August 5th, I do not live in Sarasota County. I live up in Manatee County where we got inundated with over 20 inches of rain. Again, living in Sarasota County, I can remember back in 1993, we had the no-name storm. That was a cold front that came in and just stalled right over Sarasota, Manatee County and dropped a century's worth of rain. So circling back to what the chief said is just planning is paramount. Having a plan, being informed, and following through in that plan is, I know now that property is just that, it's property. Can you really stop water? You can't. I learned that and Debbie. So, at that time, I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. 7 days before school started, our home got destroyed. So it's a burden. It was a life lesson, but it personally affects the first responders and everybody. And we know how devastating these can be, but ultimately, the top priority is saving life. So that's why these preparations are so, we stress and we stress and we stress. We put it out on social media. We drive around with our cars on our PA system. News. We work with the news forecasters to make sure that people understand when it's time to go, go. As the chief said, 45 miles per hour, that's our cutoff date. Does anybody know water? So once the storm surge starts coming up, you know how many feet of water it takes to push a car off the roadway? Does anybody know? 6 inches? A little bit higher. Get some heavier cars. So, no, hey, any amount of water on the roadway should be taken in caution, 110%. Depressions can start under the roadway. You could be driving, you could drive into a sinkhole and 6 inches of water. So 2 feet of water is going to take your car right off the roadway. Helene, I was the shift supervisor. I saw the water breach the dunes, start coming down Esplanade, Tarpon Center. I would probably say within an hour, we had 2 feet of water. We had quite a few rescues in that area, and again, it kind of circles back to it is paramount that folks pay attention, know what zone you're in, and follow the rules. If you look at this, so as the chief was saying, when you get the storm surge that comes in, especially on the Gulf Coast, the tides are important. Not only the tides, but the conditions of the Gulf. So you could have 3-4 feet of storm surge, then you're going to be followed up by another 3 feet of caps, so waves coming in. I was talking to a lady in the back that lived in Sanibel with Ian, and there's a very famous video out there of Ian coming through with, it looked biblical of what happened down in Fort Myers, and so they're hard lessons learned, but from the city's perspective, saving lives is our #1 priority, and it takes a village to really do that and make sure that everybody is prepared. Kind of a personal lesson, what I've learned is, when these storms do hit, we're going to lose power. So make sure you have those supplies for, at minimum, the first week of water, cash. I mean, these are things that I didn't think about as a first responder when I lost my house and I'm scrambling to find a hotel and nobody had power. And I was like, oh, we still use cash? So have a contingency for your pets. Make sure you have your medical supplies. And another thing too that I really learned personally is your neighbors. I lived in a beautiful neighborhood for 20 years, and I knew my neighbors to my left and right, but I didn't know my neighbors across the street. So when these storms start coming, again, it takes a village, and that's what I really saw was the community coming together and helping with the cleanup. And it took a storm to find out, hey, I have really great neighbors and fun to talk to. So, what we're trying to really do today is just pound home that these storms can be unpredictable. We've seen them move at the last moment, especially with Ian and Irma. So make sure you have that plan. What we do, again, rolling right in here, stay informed. Plenty of links from the internet to social media, and again, we'll just be out on foot. We'll go house to house to house, knock on the doors. If somebody's knocking on your door and telling you to leave, please leave. So I'll give you a minute just to take the pictures here. I lived in a Zone X. Still got 17 inches of water in my house. So, zones are zones. There's zones for insurance reasons. There's zones for other reasons, but water can come in whether you like it or not. Does anybody know what is the most dangerous part? Is it the wind or the water when it comes to a hurricane? Absolutely, water. So, again, just kind of continuing on some helpful links to stay informed, because that's one of the, if you're at 0 hour and you're an hour away from the storm making landfall and you're still trying to, educate yourself on what to do, it's too late. So once we start pushing those warnings out, please, take heed of them immediately. Yep.
So keep in mind too, these are part of what we were talking about with our own hurricane guides for the city. These are specific websites that are for local residents in particular. So the top one, VeniceGov.com, that's up and running all the time. So those are key links to have for information that specifically pertains to our residents in our area. You have your local news, obviously, so we even have our local paper. So we still have people who, and rightfully so, that still want to get the Gondolier and the Herald Tribune. Those are also great facets. Just remember, that's more newspapers are going to be for pre and post storm. Okay, so your websites, your internet connectivity, those are going to be your stronger ones. NOAA weather radios, you have to get those. Those are life-saving, not just even for hurricanes, but when you just have storms that are popping up that are nasty in July, August, that are conducive with tornadoes. Those weather radios, they give you that little bit of heads up. So please take the time to make sure that you have that information, okay?
I did touch on it, but building a supply kit, very important. Have those 3 days of water, 3 days of food. Another thing that I don't see it, but do we have boaters out here that do a float plan? Oh, of course we do, the Coast Guard's here. So I like to think of making a hurricane plan. And what I mean by that is we know more than likely we're going to lose power. And that is one, I'm not going to call it a burden, but that is one of the larger lifts we have in law enforcement, is that day after the storm. I think we responded to over 100 check the welfare. And so making sure that your family and your loved ones know where you're going to be post-storm as best as you can, and basically where you may go, where you may move. Are you going to evacuate? Or are you going to stay? And almost let the family know, the probability of us losing power is pretty big. So if you don't hear from me for a couple of days, maybe then call 911 and let us know. But we do get inundated with those calls. It took us probably about 3 days after Helene and Milton to respond to all those calls, on top of the other duties of, assisting FPL, Pike, fire department, so on and so forth, with our regular duties. So please make sure you got that plan. I know your evacuation flood zones, and I did talk about that. There are links. The City of Venice has a link, which is directly to the GSI map. Check your FEMA flood zone, so know where you're at. Definitely know where you're at. Flood insurance. I told you about my personal story. Did anybody think I had flood insurance? No. It's fun. I'll tell a funny story. After my house was destroyed, my dad came and helped, and he's a little older, and he goes, "If you got a Florida driver's license, you should have flood insurance." I said, "Yeah, thanks, Dad. Appreciate you telling me that now." No, I have flood insurance now. It's through FEMA, and I purchased it through my home insurance. They weren't offering it, so I have FEMA flood insurance. It's $250,000 structural, $100,000 personal property. Anyone guess how much that costs a year for me? $750. So my rebuild has now exceeded $110,000. So I will gladly take that $750, knowing that I have that sense of security. Another thing too is what I've learned. Again, I'm trying to share some personal, is documentation. So before a storm comes in, take a picture of your valuables, take a picture of your roof. You're going to be, filing claims, whether it's with your personal insurance or through FEMA. They need that documentation. My grandfather was an avid baseball card collector. When water starts getting into your house, you panic. Me as a first responder, I even panicked. What's the first thing I forgot? What's underneath my bed? So, I lost Willie Mays, Ted Williams, Whitey Ford, Yogi Berra baseball cards, gone. So can I file that claim? I never had documentation of them. So, protect yourself financially by going through, taking time, taking pictures, itemizing everything. You got a couple hours to instead of turning on TV, walk around your house, take pictures and itemize. But, protect yourself, please, financially.
Obviously, this is part of when hurricanes are declared. These are the shelters or the centers. So they're called evacuation centers. They all open simultaneously, and they are all pet friendly. The key to this here is, again, having a plan. This should not be your first plan, is to go to an evacuation center. Understand that if your home is 2002 or better, and you're not in you're not in the evacuation zone or flood zone, chances are that's probably going to be more comfortable than an evacuation center. So keep that in mind. Know where these are. If you are medically dependent or transportation dependent, you have to register early. Okay, don't do this the day before. This again is your last means resort. So it's going to be you and 400 or 500 of your closest friends in a very tight-knit space. So it's there for you if needed, right? The other thing you can do is your friends. Know where your friends are, have a plan too. It might be to go to their home, or they might be coming to your home. So keep that in mind. You have hotels that are available. You don't necessarily have to drive out of state or even over to the other coast. It's definitely an option, but a lot of times you can just go, 50, 75 miles to get you out of at least that wind zone or that storm surge zone. So, but keep that in mind. They are here for you. And again, it's so important to make sure that you, if need be, to register early for these. Again, if you're medically dependent or transportation dependent, now is the time. They will fill up quick. And there's always the rumor that, our closest one is Taylor Ranch Elementary, and it's just for Venice residents. That's not true. So it is literally a first come, first serve, and they're going to fill up quickly. And they did this past round. So, and it's not just as easy for Sarasota County. They're the ones who are in charge of declaring what shelters or centers are available. It's not that simple as just deeming a facility, eligible. It has to go through a enhanced hurricane protection area, platform, if you will, where it has to have certain things like it's got to have a certain amount of parking spaces. It's got to be able to have utilities for the amount of people that are going to be, needing to use the bathroom. So just keep that in mind. There is limited spacing, and the earlier the better. I see a couple hands raised. So what I should have said in the beginning is my fault. We, just for the respect of the other speakers who are after us and the time, we will take all the questions, but we'll do a sidebar questions outside, okay? Or just right outside the auditorium here.
I apologize. I don't have any challenge coins. Fire beats, please, once again. So that's on me. And just kind of echoing what Chief said, planning. take a look at these shelters. If that is your plan, make sure you abide by their rules. I've been part of a shelter, and we have people that try to light up a cigarette right in the middle of the shelter. I said, no, that's not happening. So make sure you have your either medication, whatever you need to sustain yourself through that shelter, and you will be very tight, and you will get to know people to the left and right of you. So kind of what happens when we do get struck by a storm. So we do have these different categories, if you see, red, yellow, and green. We want green. We always want green. But last year, we had the two storms which activated yellow and red. So as the chief said, and as you all know now, any winds sustained above 45 miles per hour, we cannot respond. We're going to get to you, we promise. That is our job. We swore an oath to protect and serve, and we will get to you. But we can't put other lives in peril. And it's a hard decision, and things can happen in the middle of a storm. We've seen fires in the middle of a storm. The rising water we've seen. So level red's unsafe. Emergency service may not be able to respond. Extensive damage limiting travel. Access limited to residents and business. Proper ID required. We go back and forth on the levels, and these levels can change. It's fluid. It's a spectrum. Again, once it becomes 45 miles per hour, we're not going to be able to change. And this is also kind of, you got to have a broad knowledge of your area. If you want to evacuate north, the Sunshine Skyway Bridge, they're going to close that down at 45 miles per hour. Same with the Gandy and the Howard Franklin. So again, you really have to know your area. Yellow, power out, trees down, power lines down, traffic, potential dangers to drinking, wastewater, safety precautions, requirements. We are going to, it's our job as a city to make sure that our residents are notified. So we're going to push these levels out. We're going to push out danger zones. And again, that's where it's incumbent to just stay focused. I hate to use the term, but one of our burdens after a storm is the looky-loos. So we have the looky-loos that like to come through and take pictures, and if you're going to an area that we haven't swept and power's maybe still running, we have down power lines. That can be a very potentially dangerous place. So even after a storm, please, stay put. If you're in danger, move. But if you're in a safe place, we definitely encourage everybody to stay in that safe place until we can reestablish a safe infrastructure and a safe way to travel. And level green is no limiting factors, safe, and it's general to the public and all clear. Now, if we get directly hit by a storm, it's going to take us quite a bit of time to get to those levels. Generally, what we do is we focus on the main thoroughfares, kind of what I explained before with T-FIT. So we'll make sure 41's clear out to the highway, and then we'll work our way west. So it is a dynamic process when we are clearing these roadways and making sure everything's safe. We're addressing the immediate danger, and then we have to relay this information back to our city leaders to make sure that they're working on getting the best assets out for us. We may need state, federal assistance, so it does take time, unfortunately. All right, so the after-action report conducted for operational enhancements, sandbag operation, debris management. Before the storms, we will put out on our social media, newspapers, and all of our ways to communicate with our citizens to prepare yourself as sandbags. Is it a perfect operation? No, because when you got 1,000 people going on one road trying to get sandbags, it's going to take some time. So make sure you even plan that out, and you're able to give yourself enough time to go get sandbags.
Let me talk a little bit about the after-action report. So the intent of this slide, really, it kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of what the city does pre, during, and post-storm. So after-action report, that's an incident command system lingo. It's what it means is after a storm or an event has passed, our city gets together, our directors, our city leadership, and we do what's an after-action report. It determines a SWOT analysis. What are our strengths, our weaknesses? What opportunities do we have to improve and get ready for the next round? So this one in particular was sandbag operations and debris management. I cannot say enough about our Public Works Department. The amount of debris covers football fields. And for them to get our city back and running in the amount of time that they did it was truly amazing. And for them to, while they're also having to do other jobs, our sandbag operations. If you live on the 3rd floor, you don't need sandbags, right? I'm not making this stuff up. So you're going to see some new stuff coming around this year so that we can improve our sandbag operations. But debris management, keep in mind too, and that's where if you go to our city website, you go to our Get These Hurricane Guides, it gives you an idea of what debris management is. Can't necessarily just have a tree that's fallen down in the same debris pile as a light pole, right? So keep that in mind. We're not able to, as soon as these streets are opened, it's strategically planned that we're opening up main corridors to get resources in and out of our city. So they're doing as best they can. We're not going to be able to necessarily come to your home right off the bat, especially a residential home. There's a lot of steps that have to be taken, and there is a pecking order. So just keep that in mind that debris management, however slow you may think it is going, it's actually phenomenal. And Public Works, I cannot say how fast and how well that they were orchestrating this action itself. Emergency management. Citizens Advisory Board. This is something that the city did again that is going above and beyond. We don't want just necessarily our directors' input of what went well, where can we improve. We also want our citizens. We want your input. So this year in particular, we met with the Citizens Advisory Board. They even did their own after action report, and that just gives us more intel, more data on what is it that we can do as a city to continue to improve. And remember, it takes everybody. This is also a chaotic time and you're stressed, so the littlest of things set people off. You just got to keep in mind, this is like a hazmat scene and they just simply don't go fast, okay? Strengthening intergovernment and public communications, that's also part of our thing. It's not just us making up stuff. Our comprehensive management plan for the city is built on the incident command system, the national incident management system. We work strongly with our counterparts, particularly Sarasota County. What we do as well is we take liaisons, if you will, from the city, including our assistant city manager and then a representative from public safety. While the storm is going on, they are literally up at the county's emergency operations center so that we have a voice as well. And we have strong communication with our counterparts. Sarasota County, can't say enough about them. A lot of what they dictate and their actions implemented are also from the state level. We mirror the same thing so that we can remain consistent. So those are just great things to do. Educational opportunities, the Hurricane Expo, because there is a part of it that, again, we talked about self-policing and responsibility. Your participation in being here means a ton. That means you're vested as well. It's your home, it's our homes, right? So keep that in mind that, attending these things are very, very critical to get information. And it doesn't just have to be, May 30th of every year. We do this constantly. We are happy our outreach programs are very strong. Our elected officials are well educated. They too will also be there for you. Any questions you have, and it's one of those things where we do it all year round. So if your HOA, your community, or if it's just one person, we're happy to always come and speak with you, okay?
Thanks, Chief. No, just a conclusion, we're hoping that you all can walk away with something today to better yourself, to better prepare yourself for your friends, family, pass the word. Again, being here, I know Chief's been here longer. How many years you been? 24 years. So we got a combined experience, and he did touch on it. Our leadership, our elected officials, we all work together to make sure everybody's safe, to make sure we have a plan. I've seen the progression throughout the years. Every year we're implementing something new, something beneficial. I know the last slide you saw the Verizon tower. Right before the storm, we brought in the cell boosters to make sure everybody had cell service. So that was a benefit to the citizens. We've even tapped into Tesla and have the satellites fly over, so our communication can improve during the storm. So we definitely value the input from the citizens, but again, we really stick at home that just make sure you have that plan and you're keeping your ear to the radio, to the newspaper, to the TV, and keeping yourself informed so we can all get through this All right. Yeah, don't come. I know that the gondolier just had an article out there about don't be complacent, and I think this really did. This last two storms opened up eyes to a lot of people saying, "Whoa, this can happen," and it did. So, moving forward, I hope this is 2025's uneventful season, but we just don't know. So, again, the chief and I will be over here at the corner. We're 5 minutes over. That's not bad. And we'll take some questions from you folks. But thank you again. And, I hope and pray that we have an uneventful season.
Let's give them a hand. Come on.